Buenos días, Israel Torres aquí con el noticiero y el vocero de Caribbean American Passport. Y aquí tenemos el privilegio de tener a Tom King. Tom King, por favor, introdúcete. Please introduce yourself. Déjanos saber de dónde eres, tu educación, etc. Let us know your hometown, your education, etc.
Sure, well, buenas tardes then, I guess. That's the extent of my Spanish. My Spanish is pretty poor. So I'm Tom Keene. I'm a candidate for District 1 in the City of Orlando City Council, Commissioner of District 1. Originally from Colorado, but I've moved around my entire life. I served 20 years on active duty, including coming into the Navy right here from Florida in Pensacola, where I went to flight school. Then I served all over the world, including deployments to the Middle East and to the Far East, to the Southern Pacific region, and to the Atlantic, so basically all over the world. I lived in Rota, Spain for 3 years, so I do have a little bit of Spanish, but it's not really very good. I'm not going to embarrass myself here on camera. I also spent 3 years at the U.S. Embassy in London. And I'm a graduate of the University of Cincinnati, and now I'm running for City Commissioner of District 1. Been in the aerospace industry for 20 years after retiring, and I'm a former state representative. I represented East Orange County and Osceola County in the Florida legislature as a state representative.
Tremendo, incredible. Tengo otra pregunta. I'm going to go ahead and ask you another question while I'm at it. ¿Por qué estás corriendo por el comisionado del Distrito 1? Why are you running for the District 1 Commissioner position?
Well, as a state representative, I saw some of the things that I could do on city council that I couldn't do as a state rep. And I want to make everyday Floridians, everyday folks that live here in Orlando, their lives better. And the opportunity to be a city commissioner will afford me that opportunity to make folks' lives better. And that's the reason why I'm running.
Me encantó. Loved it.
What improvements would you advocate for in public transportation, pedestrian safety, or bike infrastructure within District 1?
Sure. It's a big question. Not an easy answer. The first thing I will say is, Central Florida is probably ranks first in the nation when it comes to pedestrian and bicycle safety, the negative part, right? We have more people that are injured and killed here in Central Florida as pedestrians than anywhere in the United States. Part of that is because of the tourism, but part of it is just the fact that we haven't done a good job building sidewalks and bike lanes. So the first thing I would do is to make sure that any new developments have that feature built in. Make sure that we have plenty of walking trails, plenty of bike trails, etc. We also want to make sure that we have good public transportation here in Central Florida, and we don't really have that today. So District 1 is an outlier from the rest of the core city. Makes it really tough for public transportation, makes it hard when houses are spread apart. To get on a bus, it could take 2 hours, for example, to get to work if you had a job at the attractions area at Disney or Universal. We've got to make that better. We've got to make it easier for folks to be able to take public transportation, get the traffic scenario, the situation that we have, and your listeners may or may not know, but Narcoossee Road is the main artery that goes right through the heart of District 1, and it is clogged. It is already over capacity, and we need to be able to make sure that folks can travel that road, folks can get to work, businesses can get customers in, and that's a critical thing that I'll be working on in the first few months that I'm in office. We need to bring together stakeholders, for example, the City of Orlando, Orange County, CFX, the Toll Authority, as well as the Orlando Public School System. We have 2 major schools on that thoroughfare. We have to get everybody together to make sure that everybody's ideas are taken into account. We've got a network. We've got to set the lights up for a timing sequence to make it easier in the off-peak hours for folks to travel along that road. Quite frankly, though, during peak hours, it's still going to be a real challenge because we're over capacity right now. We've got a new expressway or tollway coming through State Route 534 on the south part of District 1. That will relieve some of the pressure on Narcoossee, but it's still a few years out, and we've got to take action immediately to help our residents.
Okay.
How would you approach balancing parking needs with the city's goal of reducing car dependency?
Could you repeat that again?
How would you approach balancing parking needs with the city's goal of reducing car dependency?
With parking,
Yeah.
so one of the things that we've done with city zoning is we require so many parking spots per apartment unit or a business. We've got to relook at that and find out if that really makes sense. So if we've got an apartment complex that's going to be in the heart of the city, maybe they don't need as many parking spots. If they don't have as many parking spots, which causes a lot of cost to the construction, and we can spend that money on more units, then potentially we can reduce rents by not having to have that costly expense of a parking structure, or at least a smaller structure. I don't know if that answers your question. I was having a hard time hearing you, but hopefully that's what you were referring to.
How do you plan to support community policing and improve trust between residents and law enforcement in your district?
So we're fortunate here in the city of Orlando and in District 1 that the crime rate has been dropping year after year, which is a testament to the community. It's also a testament to the Orlando Police Department and some of the things that they're doing. I did sit on the Citizens Police Review Board for several years and saw the benefits of that particular program and how I think it helped. One of the things that I would advocate for is more community policing. We're seeing the use of community officers as opposed to police officers, helping with minor traffic accidents and taking reports and things like that. I think we can continue to do that. We also have a very good model program that was rolled out a few years ago using mental health professionals to help the police department deal with crises that aren't really something that is in the lane of a police officer when they don't have that kind of training. So that, to me, is a program that we need to continue. As far as District 1, we need to continue to maintain the safety and security for our residents. So we need, as it grows, we need to continue to add police officers. We've got a good school resource program here in the city of Orlando, and all of our schools have school resource officers assigned. I think they have a big impact, and I think that program will continue and should continue, going on in the future.
Perdona por interrumpir. I apologize for interrupting. I didn't get the opportunity to continue asking a part of that question that I did last time. No pude terminar preguntar la parte de la pregunta que te pregunté la última vez. Te quería preguntar, I want to ask you, describe el distrito, lo que te significa para ti y lo que ellos están pasando en estos momentos. Describe District 1 and what it means to you. And how do you feel about some of the events that are happening at the moment?
So geographically, District 1, as I said before, is about the same size as all of the other districts in the city combined together. We have a population of about 50,000 folks. That's been the same throughout the city. Each district has been set so that we represent the same number of voters and residents. But geographically, it's huge. So it's centered around the airport, MCO, Orlando International. We've got multiple communities and HOAs that are in the district, including Lake Nona, Southport, Vista Lakes, Randall Park, Story Park, and I'm sure I'm going to leave a few out, Meridian Parks. But it's a lot of residential areas that are in HOAs, and then we have a lot of apartment residents as well. A lot of them reside on apartments on Narcousie Road, which is contributing a lot to the traffic that we see every day. As far as some of the issues that we have in District 1, we have an affordability crisis here in Orlando, and it applies to folks that live in expensive homes as well as people who live in apartments. They can't afford to live in an apartment that runs for almost $3,000 a month. They're going to really have a hard time to save up to buy a house. So we've got to figure out a way that we can bring that affordability down. We just talked about it a little bit ago with reducing the number of parking spots maybe that would be required in some of the urban communities. That could bring prices down a little bit. As far as the other issues, traffic is obviously a big issue. We also have an environmental issue, and a lot of folks don't know about Split Oak Forest that are listening to this, but Split Oak Forest is a set aside 1,500 acres of forest land that was set aside as a mitigation for development in another part of the city maybe 20, 30 years ago. And right now, that part of that forest is under attack, if you will. They were going to try to build a road right through the middle of it. Fortunately, Save Split Oak came together. A lot of the residents and activists got together, and they were able to basically able to advocate for the placement of that road to the west side, which allows the forest to be maintained, most of the acreage. Still not a good solution, but it's better than the one that was proposed. That will potentially relieve some of the traffic that's coming through the district, but we want to make sure that forest conservation continues, and that we continue to make sure that the environment is important too here in District 1.
City commissioners often have to collaborate with county, state, and private stakeholders. What's your strategy for building consensus and getting things done?
Right, so this is a great question, because right now we are having an issue with collaboration, and that's on Narcoossee Road, and the traffic situation that we have that's building up there. Right now, we have 3 separate entities that control the traffic signals along Narcoossee, and they haven't been talking to one another. Not only do the traffic signals not talk to one another specifically with their time and network together, but I don't think that the 3 government entities are talking to themselves very well either. Now we have a organization called Metro Plan Orlando, and in theory it brings these folks together when it comes to transportation issues, but they haven't been talking. At least we haven't seen the results of them talking together. So we need to get Orlando, City of Orlando, the county, Orange County, and the Tollway Authority, CFX, to come together. We also have to add other stakeholders. For example, we have to add Orange County Public Schools, because we have 2 major schools, an intermediate school and a high school, that are along Narcoossee. And during school hours, they contribute big time to the traffic situation along Narcoossee. So those stakeholders have to come together. We also have to bring the businesses, the small businesses and the large businesses that are along Narcoossee, and bring them all together and collaborate so that we can get this traffic situation solved and let folks get to and from work and to and from businesses and get to their jobs in a timely manner. That's one example. Now, there's some really good things that have come out of collaboration, and I'd like to continue to see it. But we saw that with UCF Medical School when they collaborated with the state and with the university system, with private ownership, with the landowner and others, to build that medical school in Orlando, which contributes immensely to our economy. So that was a very good example. And we've got some innovation labs and things like that, I think, that are important too, where we can bring private and government folks together that can help create these new jobs, this new economy that we're looking at, and get Orlando away from not away, but add to the tourism jobs that we have, so that we have a little bit better mix of jobs here in the city.
Oh, I got a quick question. Otra pregunta, perdona por interrumpirte. Sorry for interrupting again, but as an Orlando resident, I actually was curious. How do you plan to attract substantial, like, high-wage jobs to the district, not just service or tourism industry positions? You feel me? Like, ¿cómo piensas atraer más trabajos buenos que no solamente son de servicio o para el turismo en esta ciudad de Orlando?
Well, we clearly have to do exactly what you just described. We need to have a better mix of jobs. We shouldn't be relying on the tourist sector to drive our economy, even though that is the single largest component of our economy. I worked in the aerospace business, and what a lot of folks don't know, up by UCF, there's a research park, and there's a couple hundred companies up there in the high-tech world of modeling and simulation. And those are very well-paying jobs, and those folks live throughout the city of Orlando and in Orange County. Those are the kind of jobs that we need to continue to bring and encourage folks to come to Central Florida. In addition, in Medical City, which is right there in the heart of District 1, we've got opportunity to bring in some research and development, things like that will complement our 3 major hospitals, Nemours Children's Hospital, UCF, and the VA hospital. And soon we're going to have a new hospital as well, with Advent Health building a 4th hospital in the district. Those bring a lot of high-paying jobs, and they're important to our economy, and they also contribute to the health and well-being of our community as well.
So how will you ensure transparency and community input into your decision-making process as commissioner?
Sure. So as a former state representative, I met with folks all the time. I had a very open door policy. Anybody, even if I didn't agree with them, I wanted them to come see me and talk to me about their plans or the things that they wanted to communicate. We'll continue to do that with the city as a city commissioner. In addition, I think it's important to hold, I'll call them town halls, but we can make them, in the city commission, we can maybe even make them just a small get-togethers over coffee. Meet at a CFS Coffee, for example, a new coffee shop that just opened up in our community. Meet there, on a Monday morning at 10 o'clock and let residents come in a very casual way and talk about different things that are important to them. In addition, I think we need to have some advocacy groups. So I will be reaching out to the community, whether you're in an HOA or you're not an apartment dweller or maybe you're a business owner. Those different kind of affinity groups should come together and be able to advise me on things that are going on in the city and the things that they want to see happen.
How would you support participatory? Guys, you're gonna have to cut it.
No, that's it. Sorry.
Just keep.
Okay. My English is not Englishing. Okay. How would you support ways for residents to have direct input on how city funds are spent?
Say that again?
We started over already, so we'll know.
How would you support ways for residents to have direct input on how city funds are spent?
On how city funds are spent. Well, okay, I will tell you that the annual budget, which is about $1.8 billion here in the city of Orlando, goes through a very rigorous process. And citizens are invited to contribute their ideas throughout that process. And what I have found is that very few people actually become part of the process and they don't really engage. So we need to make that more open, we need to advertise that more. But we also need to, as I just described in the previous answer, we need to have dialogues with the community at all times. So it's not just during the budget cycle, it'll be like this year, next month, the week after that, etc. So we need to be out in the community talking to folks. And then the process itself with budgeting does solicit from the community questions and issues and concerns, and we just need to make sure that the folks are aware of it. They may not even be aware of the budget process, and so they aren't thinking about that. We are fortunate in the city of Orlando is that we haven't raised the millage rate on property taxes for I think 15 years. So that's good. Other places in Florida are raising their rates, even just north of us in Seminole County. They just added to the millage rate. So we're fortunate we've not have to do that here because we've got good financial planning in the city. And so we want to maintain that millage rate, make sure that we don't add an extra burden of tax and that affordability issue that we see in other parts of the state.
Si se puede, if we have time for another question, I know you're very pressed on time and you have a lot of places to go, and we're rooting for you. But and appreciate you coming to Cap Village for this press conference as well. But the last question, la última pregunta, con cual lo quiero terminar, in which I want to finish this with, would be, what do you see as the most urgent issue facing District 1, and how do you plan to address it within the first year in office? ¿Qué es el problema más grave en el Distrito 1 y cómo planeas arreglarlo en el primer año de oficina?
Well, first off, I would say there's not just one pressing issue. So I'm not going to be able to answer that question with one thing. I will say affordability is the number one issue that I hear when I'm knocking on doors. Property insurance costs, taxes, etc. Number one issue. The number two issue that I think is important to talk about is traffic and infrastructure and making sure that we get that solved. I think that's a little easier to do than the affordability, and that's something we'll work on that first year. The third thing is the environment. And we talked about Split Oak Forest being in the district. That's going to be a number one priority of mine, especially as State Route 534 is starting construction next year, and that's going to happen during my first year in office. So we want to make sure that we're on top of that at all times.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you stopping by.
Well, thank you for all the great questions.